Hey everybody, thanks for being here for this episode of Around the Block. It's going to be a fun one. We've got a buddy of mine, Nicolas Lopez from Kanda Weather, who's doing some really amazing things on IoT and weather prediction and all kind of stuff on Telos. So super excited to have him here today. Actual sort of NASA guy, believe it or not. This is just a really exciting episode for me. And of course, we've got Nathaniel and Sean. Hey guys, how's it going?
Very good.
Great. It's awesome to be here. We're excited about today's episode. Excited to hear from Nicolas.
Yeah, and this is an all guys episode. That's kind of rare here.
The girls took the week off
for Around the Block.
You know, it's a sad day.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump in and say hi to Nicolas Lopez from Teleconda. Hey, Nicolas, it's great to have you here. One of my very favorite projects all time on Telos. So welcome.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So I just want everybody to know about what you're doing with Kanda Weather. But let's kind of start real quick with like your background. You when we first met, you had been previously with NASA, but you were with Boeing at the time as a rocket scientist programmer, right? You want to give a little bit of a backstory, and then how you've come to Kanda Weather and Telos, and now you're a Telos block producer as well.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly an astronaut, and that was actually before I got into Telos. Yeah, I worked at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center on a weather satellite. So I was a scientific programmer behind the scenes that deployed algorithms for the reflectance values on the satellite and stuff. So it's very code intensive, being on servers all the time. And so I got a lot of IT experience there just by chance. And it was actually my boss who taught me about Bitcoin in 2017. Where he was doing some mining at home, and it's just like a bonding thing. I guess after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he was kind of like a nerd, and he showed me Bitcoin. And I thought I knew nothing about that, and I thought it was really interesting. And then from the past year, naturally, I just went down rabbit holes and went from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then really fell in love with EOS, to be honest, for a long time. And after that, I had this idea of launching the weather balloons. As many of you know, and it's to serve a very unique data set that has gone degraded over many years over West Africa. And yeah, I thought blockchain was a great use case for it. And that's where I talked with one of the developers, Paul Messnier. He's like one of the core developers on EOS.io. And he said, hey, if you're doing something related to that, there's a chain called Telos. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of Telos, of course. And then I looked to the team, and I was like, oh wow, like there's like some really good projects here. And at the time I was already using smart contracts, and I already saw the fees were ridiculously lower. So that's where I was like, hey, I'll put a worker proposal system, because I found out about that.
Yeah, well, I remember when you and I first talked about it, you were telling me what you were looking to do, and you were in Texas, and you wanted to do this in Nigeria. And I remember saying, well, we've got a bunch of these guys in the Teleconda group who are super excited about Telos and want to do stuff, and a lot of university kids, and so I think you found part of your local team that way, and so you could do like local launches, and it's really amazing how it's come together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's one student in Nigeria, in Uyo, Nigeria, named Emmanuel Patrick, that I started talking with, and he was interested in like, oh, blockchain, web, money. I'm very interested. So I told him about the weather project and how I'm not located there, and that I'm in the U.S. It'd be fantastic, this educational exercise, if we got these radiosondes in the air to demonstrate this use case for blockchain and provide it to kind of my past organization, in my history there. I think that would be fantastic. And he said, yeah, sure. And then I don't know if he believed me that I worked at NASA. I don't know. But I think he was more interested in the digital currency part of it. So we actually worked together for about a year and a half. Just over Telegram messages. And, we had maybe 1 or 2 FaceTime calls that were super degraded quality. But other than that, I didn't know the guy, and we were teammates for a long time, and we still are. We still keep in touch. And, we've done in total about 25 launches to date, and we've connected with other universities. Last month, we set up a hydrogen filling station at the University of Douala with this whole sensor that I built, or sorry, this whole setup that I had here in Dallas, and I just kind of shipped the materials over there. And even though it took me 3 months to build it and like all these engineering diagrams to do it, they built it in 2 days. So it just shows how good people are at getting this work done. And in developing countries, I think there's a really people are really passionate about climate and doing stuff with their local university. And I don't think he was even paid for the work that he did, and neither was I. So it was kind of like we were in the same boat to work on this together.
So yeah, gosh, there's so much to unpack here. One thing, when you say radiosondes, that's basically weather balloons, right?
Yeah, so the radiosonde is the little thing that hangs from the bottom of the weather balloon, exactly.
And that's an IoT device in like a Raspberry Pi that's 3D printed, 3D printed enclosure that with software and everything, that you open sourced every part of that, right?
Yeah, we sure did. It was a new project for me because I hadn't worked with the little microcontrollers that we used. But when I found all these tutorials online, how easy it was to just flash some firmware using Arduino, I was like, wow, I really got to try this. And from there, naturally, the communities also have 3D printing spaces. And so I was able to find these 3D printing, as they're called STL files, which is the design file, and just kind of improve it to make it suitable for the microcontroller I was using. And the most interesting part of the project, I did that because I wanted to have an enclosure for. I didn't know what else to use other than a Tupperware piece of Tupperware that I had, which was the first iteration. I found out that Emmanuel actually had a friend who also had a 3D printer in Uyo, Nigeria. So I sent him the STL file, and he was able to print all of his enclosures there locally. And so I would just have to send the electronics to him, and then he would put it in there. And it was really that easy. And in some instances, he would also load the firmware as well. So
that's and also perform the test launches as well, right?
Yeah, that was the main goal, was to get as many launches as possible.
Now you've got this system, and we'll find a picture of it to show, because it's so cool. Like the system you were just talking about, it's got an electrolysis system that splits up water into hydrogen and oxygen, and then captures the hydrogen, and it's got a compressor, right? And it's all run by solar panels, right? So it's fully off the grid. But then these solar panels are angled at a 45-degree angle, and when rain falls on them, they collect the water. I love the engineering of it. It's so damn smart, and I just love it like that, because that's something you could practically just leave it out somewhere, and sort of an elephant sitting on it, it doesn't have to be hooked up to anything, which is great for all these parts of the world where they don't have full, access to plumbing and all these, and electricity everywhere. You can do it anywhere. It's amazing.
Yeah, I have a quick question. What's the potential for global impact by this, the data that's being collected?
Yeah, so there's a lot of publications that show that if we were to maintain the currently existing 12 sensors 12 upper level stations in West Africa, we could improve global forecasts, the global model that makes the forecast for Southern Europe. And that's applicable to a 7-day time frame. So if you think about it, I mean, it's like a $50 piece of hardware that gets launched, it's disposed. If you have that over 13 stations, we're talking less than, $1,500 a day, right? That's pretty incredible to be able to make a 7-day impact over an entire, portion of a continent by just having that cost. It's absolutely incredibly insane. So the reason for that is that there's just no data, right? So global models are running off what satellites have. Satellites have a really good the awareness of what the surface is. So they're looking at soil brightness temperatures. They're looking at something called the skin temperature, which is the first meter above the earth. And it can really tell you, oh, the temperature is this, humidity is this. But what they're really bad at is finding what it is, 15,000 feet above our heads, because it's air, right? Like they're just looking for, tiny discrepancies in reflectance values. Like it gets really complicated. And you combine that with the fact that we're looking at Africa, which already doesn't have any data to calibrate it with, right? So those measurements are almost garbage. And it's garbage in, garbage out. You put, pretty uncalibrated data into a global weather model, you're going to get really bad forecasts. So that's why we're doing these in situ observations where we're directly measuring the atmospheric column, how much humidity is there. And we can get some really interesting use cases too. So you mentioned global impact. It's also a local impact. So the reason, a big part of what we've kind of shifted to now that we know it will take a long time to get these data sets in the hands of NOAA, for instance, and machine learning groups there at University of Huntsville, which is has a lot of NASA connections in these places. I thought it'd be a lot easier to connect with these people considering my background, but I mean it's difficult because it's almost like too novel, right? Like there's a lot of researchers that are interested in using UAVs because it's a well-established technology, but a 3D printed sensor for them it will take some time for them to actually see the data being 100% useful. But what we found is that we can actually do a lot of local impact. So we developed a 12-hour machine learning model that forecasts rainfall for specific regions. Instead of using the data to forecast for the entire, an entire continent, which we know is possible because research says, hey, if we have these stations, this will be good. We'll have improved forecasts. We're looking at a citywide forecast. So we're looking at doing a radio sun launch at 8 a.m. in the morning and saying, okay, there's a 40% chance given the atmospheric profile we saw. So there's that localized impact too. And that's very achievable because that's us just having a weather application that shows what the output of our machine learning model was. And that's something we can control. And a lot of students are really excited about getting that data and being able to show that with their peers and show it on social media. So it's almost like we had global ambitions and those are still possible. They just take time and we're focusing on a local impact in the meantime.
So how does your data get from your IoTs to the blockchain?
Here, I'll show you something in person. So this is our ground sensor. These are kind of the ground equivalent of what happens with the 3D printed radio sun ones. These are ones that stay on the ground and measure temperature, pressure, humidity. So they have a little radio on there that sends to a community network of people that are hosting little receivers. So there's a network called Helium where people host these giant radio antennas on their roof, and they get paid in HNT currency. So they're called Helium miners. And it sounds like a really fringe, like small project, but they have 900,000 hotspots globally. And it blows my mind that the network is this big. And so we're using their receiving network to produce our packets. So we're sending temperature, pressure, humidity to their network and then paying people in Telos for collecting this data. So that's what our product is. Our new product is a weather miner. And that's how we're doing it. It's that low power network. And the benefits of that are you don't have to connect it to your Wi-Fi. It's very low power. So this on a single charge on a battery can last 30 days. It has a solar panel on top. So theoretically, it could last 6 months to a year. So there's a lot of benefits to using low power. And yeah, so that's why we're also interested in connecting with those communities because they also happen to be people really interested in climate and like doing things, getting passive income. Like they're hosting a radio antenna. It's not hard for them to just kind of put this on like a fence post that's in their backyard. And the benefits are that, hey, the radio antenna is already right there. It's already going to send data and we know we have good quality. So it's kind of benefits all around. And we've gotten a lot of people interested in hosting the sensors for Telos.
Yeah, that is cool. It's great how many technologies you're using, right? So it's using Telos blockchain. It's using LoRa WAN radio, on which is also on incentivized by the Helium network. It's got using 3D printing. It's using Arduinos and it's using
solar.
like it's using this this remote solar powered hydrogen producing that, it's really, it's totally off the grid. It's amazing. And I really want to see this scale up. So big picture, Kanda Weather is a program that makes it possible soon anywhere in the world to, but right now in West Africa, where the need is probably greatest, to send up a radiosonde inexpensively, be rewarded for that as it goes up in different layers of the atmosphere. And what it's going to tell you is through GPS, it's going to tell you its position, the altitude, and then the temperature of the air and the wind direction of the air and the humidity of the air, like all these like data points that are impossible to get from satellites, right? Because those only really are good at getting the Earth's surface temperature. So basically, you're taking a 2D model and adding all kinds of data in a 3D space that just doesn't exist. And what that's doing is it vastly improves the model of weather for Western Europe, right, for the next week. It also, I think we've talked about it before, it greatly enhances the ability to predict and understand and model the Atlantic hurricanes that hit North and South America, the East Coast. And then it allows for the first time to have a accurate weather prediction locally, right? So this is one of those things. I remember when we were talking about it earlier. It was, earlier, meaning like 3 years ago, that, is like, we're going to make the data worthwhile for insurance companies and all these other things, right? And use that to create a way that local people's lives can be vastly improved so that, they know they have more than an hour's warning of flash floods and all these things. Is that it? Is that the big picture? And did I miss anything important?
That is exactly what we're trying to do, and the getting that profile is really important for forecasters in particular for that 1 to 7 day time frame, because air it moves northward towards the equator generally. So when you have a lot of heat near the equator, it takes a while for those effects to be felt further up. So if you imagine what it looks like for like a mid-latitude cyclone coming over the western United States that's just blowing east, those we're talking about synoptic scale. That's the name of the weather time frame, from like 1 to 7 days, where it takes a long time for that data to get put into the model to be able to make accurate predictions, right? So because that takes such a long time, and there's so many researchers and moving parts, and these are supercomputers run in College Park, Maryland, that just cost a couple $1 billion worth of grants at one point 10 years ago to build. We have this machine learning model that you can run on a Raspberry Pi, right? And I don't recommend it. I know it can run. We ran it on a Raspberry Pi. That part
we did that through a hackathon, right? An interface hackathon that we on Taikai that we
sponsored. We sure did. We had a hackathon with Taikai to make a dashboard for the forecast itself. So showing if it's going to be partly cloudy, showing if it's going to rain, what's the percent chance of rain, something very simple that anyone could understand, right? Because rain is a very intuitive thing to forecast for. Temperature, maybe not so much. Even like converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. Imagine talking to someone that is a farmer in a very remote place about Celsius and Fahrenheit and saying, hey, you have this number. You tell him it's 32 degrees. And he's like, oh my God, my crops are going to freeze. And you're like 32 Celsius. Oh my God, I don't know what that means. It's just kind of it's a very unintuitive way to understand weather, but rain, fortunately, is very easy to understand. And that's why we were really tailoring the dashboard to just say, hey, is it going to rain or not rain this day? That is base one, right? That's the first thing you want to do when you get up in the morning if you're a farmer.
And that's the biggest thing, right? That's because of the denuding of the forest and everything like that. And the rain is what's likely to cause these flash floods that have the single biggest impact. I think most people watching this are not going to get in their mind, because it's very hard to wrap your mind around if you live in the United States or Western Europe or anything like that. no weather forecast service, right? Or essentially no daily forecast. Is that the reality for many of these areas?
I would say no. I would say it's very easy for a farmer to go on an app and get a forecast. And that's just because smartphones are really common there. I think what the biggest problem is those there's two, right? The first is that those forecasts are very inaccurate. And it's almost like unhelpfully accurate, right? Like and I saw this when I lived in Florida. It's not just a rural farmer in Africa problem. It's a lower latitude thing that a lot of times we don't think about because we live at such a high latitude, just like Europe. It's very easy to forecast at a certain point above the equator. But I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And if you looked at the rain forecast for maybe not September, we're in September. If you looked at it for June, you would just see 60% chance of rain every day, just scattered thunderstorms. And it's very unhelpful to know if that's actually going to happen. And a lot of times the forecasts are even worse than that in Africa because the models will just make all these crazy assumptions and just, like I said, there's not enough data to actually produce a reliable forecast. So a farmer is going to see that and be like, okay, 100% chance of rain. Hey, my weather app told me that, last week and it didn't rain. Why am I going to believe that? So it's almost like a chicken and the egg problem where if you have these forecasts, you have to make them reliable or else the person isn't going to really trust them at all. And so that's a big part of it too. I almost like cringe when I hear people in DC saying, hey, we really got to get this weather information to people. And I'm like, I feel like the internet is kind of already solving that. I think we just have to go to the granular level of actually improving forecasts, because if we provide them with like a forecast that's almost tailored for like a US European centric view of how weather moves around the world, you don't get the nuances that weather over the equator is simply just air rising from a low point to a high point, because that's all it is. And it makes it very unpredictable. Fortunately, a weather balloon is exactly measuring that exact trajectory. So we kind of want to shift the narrative, or at least I do, right? This is my passion of actually making better forecasts, and then kind of later on also working into providing that data to people, because I think that providing a data to people is already being solved. And with social media now and Twitter and people sharing forecasts and saying, hey, it's like this in my city, or Telegram groups that are for their schools, right? Like they post, what is the weather going to be like that day? That's extremely helpful, right? And that's very accessible. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a long rant, and it's a complicated situation, but we're trying to focus on the forecasting as well as that do-it-yourself nature while learning about weather, and kind of like an educational aspect for it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not in West Africa. I can't launch these balloons, and working with students to develop the machine learning models and hosting hackathons is a whole educational aspect where people can use the data in ways that they see fit.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate the deep dive, because I'm still learning. I'm when I call it we, it's because I'm an advisor on this project, but mostly I learn. I'm mostly learning, and it's so great that we have somebody with so much domain experience, and exactly what the people will actually need, what's going to be useful, so you're not creating something that it doesn't actually help anyone. I think that's fantastic. So you can go as long as you want on that, but I guess my last question is, this is not just a West Africa thing, right? It could have impact in a lot of places, and it sounds like from what you just said, particularly in places that are at or near the equatorial latitudes, like in the tropics, because those also happen to be areas that have poor infrastructure compared to more temperate.
Yeah, I would say the regions of the tropics could benefit the most, but we're also looking to get some of the crowdsourced data idea from US and Europe too, because NOAA is a very old agency. They use a lot of sensors that are somewhat outdated. They still work, but it's using outdated methods to actually provide that data to people. And that's why we have this new Weather Miner product, right? Like this is a simple sensor that people can host in their backyard. I looked at a statistic somewhere that said 60% of most land use is just for commercial and residential purposes, right? So if someone were to host this at their small business or at their home, we're all collecting it together, right? And it's a very simple thing for us to host it publicly in a normal manner, except that it's hard to give that public accessibility while also being tamper-proof, right? So, for example, IBM recently acquired all of these enthusiast stations that were located around the United States. They were just people hosting a product just like this. They just wanted to do it for the good of the community. And IBM just bought this company and started using that to make their own forecasts and monetizing the data themselves without actually, giving anything back to the person that's hosting it, right? And that whole idea of like just privatizing, something that should be public, right? Something.
Yeah, everyone's doing it for goodwill, and because and then it's like great, and then a big company goes, oh well, this is just data that's that these people are foolishly giving away for free, so we're going to turn it into a product, which is.
They see dollar signs and they're like, what can we give to our shareholders that will be of enormous value here? And
talk about value mining.
Sounds about right. That's a block. That's a block stuff of the week that should be added to that.
I could talk about this all day, and some days I have, but I think that we should probably wrap it up here a little bit. I would want to say to everybody that Kanda Weather is also a Telos block producer. And this is one of the things you're doing for Telos, right? Is not only helping us build this fantastic use case, which really should be, globally recognized and embraced, but also helping us, show IoT uses and whatnot, and then just running good nodes to keep the network going. Is anything else people should be aware of, in their voting? Because I definitely vote for Kanda Weather, and I think that more folks should too.
Yeah, I think the IoT use case is beyond weather, right? It's as long as you want small pieces of data, Telos is a great place to store it because it has an EVM now. It is so low cost to hold it on the smart contracts. It's extremely fast, right? I mean, we're looking at half-second block times, and there's essentially micro forks that don't even happen. They happen behind the scenes, right? Like, the software is just so fast and scalable that IoT is actually very, very perfect for blockchain. I mean, there are some parts of IoT that may not be the best, like a camera that's like looking at someone's patio, right? That has produces a megabyte of data per second. You don't want to store all of that on chain. But if we're talking any sensors, beyond weather, we're talking, a few bytes of data for, let's say, a river, right? Something that would be really helpful to be decentralized, right? There's a huge use case for IoT, and so we're kind of pushing to find the nuances with EOS.io and IoT, because it's a server-based architecture, so it's a little harder to get our data directly on chain if we do signatures, like if we sign directly on the device and do it there. So by voting for us, you'll be benefiting the whole idea of putting a lot of low-cost, low-bandwidth sensors directly on chain beyond just weather, because we really want to focus on that infrastructure component, make it really easy for all IoT devices to talk to chain. Because right now it's kind of convoluted, where you have to essentially ask the blockchain for a state of the blockchain and then sign using that piece and then put it to the chain. So it doesn't really make sense for most applications. And so we're inviting anyone that is interested in IoT, Wi-Fi, radios, anyone that's interested in digital signatures for cryptography, reach out to us. We're really excited to work with you. And the teams are small, so it's great to work with developers directly.
Nicolas, where can we find information, the best places to find information on your projects?
Yeah, we do a lot of social work. So, well, not social work. I mean, we do, I guess, right? Lunch weather points. We have our socials. Kanda Weather. We're on Twitter. We also have a few Medium articles we put out. Yeah, we just started this Discord a few days ago to kind of to get people affiliated with the sensors because we're doing a huge push now. I finished this about 2 months ago, so we're selling a lot of them actually. So, people need help setting up their sensors. It's a do-it-yourself product. So some people like to 3D print theirs. So people go on the Discord to learn about the project and to know how, like what filament to use for the 3D printing and that whole thing. So it's kind of an all-around place for us to just talk weather and blockchain and 3D printing. So,
well, thank you so much for being here, Nick. And it's great that you are part of Telos, and you've already done so much. And I totally agree. Telos is perfectly situated for IoT because there's free transactions, there's half-second granularity, all these reasons that make it fantastic. So thanks for helping us blaze the trail there, and so much for everything you're doing with Kanda Weather. It's one of my favorite use cases ever to talk about with Telos, and everybody's interested. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's fantastic, and great questions too.
Thanks, Nicholas.
All right, now we're here for BS of the week. That's right, time for block stuff.
So this week, the SEC has launched 2 new offices. This is probably due to the funding that they just received previously that we reported on. The SEC Division of Corporate Finance has launched 2 new offices, the Office of Crypto Assets and the Office of Industrial Applications and Services. And these are to investigate the exchanges, and their overall arcing idea is that they're going to investigate all exchanges. So good luck to them on that one.
Yeah. And why is this BS? Well, number one, they are not empowered to do this. The courts have been very clear lately, over and over again, that agencies are only able to do things that they have been specifically empowered to do by Congress. They were never specifically empowered to do any of this stuff. There's no legal basis whatsoever for the SEC to be managing cryptocurrencies or blockchain-based businesses. End of story. Nothing. It's total BS. They should not do this. It's not their job. It's a complete overreach. And really, at the same time as they're going in and not doing what is their job, things like managing the millions of non-existing shares that people are just naked shorting, that is their job. They're not doing that. They are trying to make up some BS purpose for themselves that is going to fail, it's going to fail in the courts, but they're just being dicks because they know it's going to fail. It's not their fucking job to do this. And here they are doing these just to disrupt the industry.
Right.
You have to understand, they're just trying to disrupt the industry. They're just trying to screw everybody in crypto. They know it's not their job. They know it will never stand up in court. They're just doing this. And really, time for Gary Gensler to get the fuck out. Bye, buddy.
Time to go.
That's my opinion. It could go either way, though.
I just don't believe that they're securities, and there's no corporations that underlie the security, right? So
some are not for something like Telos, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot that probably are, but creating these new offices to regulate cryptocurrencies is not, right? It's called the Office of Crypto Assets. In the very name of it, crypto asset is not security, right? Not Absolutely. Your job, Gary.
Overstepping boundaries on this one.
So much. Yeah, so much. Knock it off. Well, my feelings are pretty strong on this. You may you may notice.
Yes. So let's move on to the next one. You've got one for me?
Yeah. And this was one I call the Lunacy. And so the Lunacy. There is a token called LUNC. It's Luna Classic. And it recently has had a huge run up and then a big crash turning around. And it's absolutely crazy. It is lunacy that Lunacy is doing anything, right? Luna crashed. It was unsupported. It was, and then this Luna Classic launches, and it's just like it's based on nothing, and people just aping in because they think it's going to go up, and classic pump and dump.
Classic. I agree. Lunacy. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad. Like to connect these. This is why, crypto industry sets itself up for this kind of action by the SEC, right? But still not theirs to regulate. But some of this stuff the industry does to itself, I think it really harms the players like Telos and GoodBlock and everybody around us and guys like Nick Lopez, right?
Right.
And Kanda Weather. Like, these are real uses. These are real cases. We shouldn't get lumped in with the lunatics, at Luna and Luna Classic and all these pump and dumps. But we do. It's hard to avoid it. So it's frustrating. But
yeah, we work in the same space. The thieves work in the same space we do, and they're going to lump us together if they can.
Well, they want to, right? Because it helps their narrative.
It does. Yeah. Man, that's some stuff of the week.
Yeah, that's some good BS this week. Funny thing is, I thought we were going to talk all about Lunacy and very little about the SEC, but that didn't happen. All right, Moss's Market Minute, 60 seconds, not financial advice, go.
So, this week in crypto, in Moss's Market Minute, I'm actually doing really well. I got into EOS, like I have been saying in my Market Minute previously, and we had a great week. It's up 29%. In the rest of the blockchain space, you may want to keep holding, as the spring is not necessarily thawing as fast as we would like to, and it's chaotic out there. Lunacy went up like 200%, and then it immediately came right back down. It was very crazy. EOS seems to be like holding off, and no one's investing in it. So that's my Market Minute.
All right, leaving a little extra time on the Market Minute clock for next time. Thanks, Nathaniel. Doug's Alpha Drop coming right up. This is a week that we're heading directly into the Ethereum merge. I believe the Ethereum merge will happen as expected. I also believe that following it, people will be pretty let down by what the actually merge was about. Like, people can really get excited about it. And so I think that a lot of that stuff may be priced in already. Hard to say, because people, I always expect people to react rationally, and I'm kind of giving up on that. So my take would be, don't do anything this week. Unless you feel really strong. I don't think we know what's going to be the outcome. EOS did great. I think that typically something like Telos and Wax and whatnot and other antelope-based chains are likely to follow that, but it's hard to say. So this is a week where I would pick up a hobby or something. Other than crypto trading, but not financial advice. Do your own research. Thanks for tuning in for today's episode of Around the Block. We're coming at you every week with the GoodBlock team and great guests. And please, if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe to it so you know when it's coming. Hit the bell. That does something too, I'm told. And thumbs up. Why not? All right. See you guys next week.